Give it a chance, and Tesla's Model S will forever change the way you view electric cars. In fact, it may well change the way you think about cars of any kind. Put simply, it seems to offer us a glimpse of a better way. A means of luxurious automotive mobility that does away with engine noise and vibration. One that instantly makes the whole idea of lugging around a barrel of fossil fuel to burn seem quaint and outdated. Full electric cars have long promised these things, but then made themselves untenable with high pricing and restrictive driving ranges. In contrast, a Model S costs no more than its full luxury segment rivals, and crucially, thanks to its larger battery, can travel 3 or 4 times further than any ordinary electric vehicle between charges. Better still, all of this comes packaged up with a range of smart technologies that could only have come from a company with a clean sheet approach to personal transportation. This car is, in short, a breath of fresh air, in every sense.
Take a seat inside and, well, it's not really like anything you'll have tried before. The cabin's dominated by this enormous colour touchscreen that sits in the middle of the fascia and can be used to control everything from the selectable height of the air suspension to the workings of the climate control system. Now, much else is different too, with almost everything you expect a luxury vehicle to deliver having either been changed or become configurable. So there's no start button and certainly no ignition slot. There's no handbrake either. These things aren't necessary, for the Tesla knows the key is on board, poising itself for the gradient you're on and ready for progress. The throttle pedal requires quite a flex from your right foot, but brush your brogues against it with any kind of purpose and this thing hurls itself forward with acceleration that's, well, electric. But then you'd expect it to be. In a combustion engine, the pulling power would, after all, have to build. Here, everything's there right from the get-go. And in the case of the standard 85 kWh Model S variant I'm driving here, everything means a prodigious 600 newton meters of torque from the 380 brake horsepower electric motor, enough to fire you up the road even more quickly than the 0 to 60 sprint time of 5.4 seconds would suggest. Even that, though, is more than enough to make this car significantly quicker than the fastest luxury segment diesel models it theoretically competes with. Which brings me neatly to the next model up in the range, the Model S85D. Here, the D in question doesn't stand for a smoky oil burner, but instead designates the addition of the dual motor option, Tesla's way of describing four-wheel drive. The all-wheel drive dual motor setup, to give this system its full name, changes this car's mechanical configuration. So you move from the simple layout of the variant I'm driving here, that of having a single 380 brake horsepower electric motor slung out over the rear axle, driving the back wheels, to one that, as the terminology suggests, offers 2 electric motors, one sitting on the front axle, the other driving from the rear. Both of these develop 188 brake horsepower, so in total you've got approximately the same sort of power as you would in an ordinary Model S85 variant, but with the power spread around the drivetrain, you've of course got the perfect recipe for all-wheel drive traction. I mentioned operating range earlier. Now you'll be wanting to know about that. We were, after all, used to fully charged pure EV models struggling to deliver a real-world range of much more than about 70 miles. Restrictions of this kind are the main reason why people don't like electric vehicles. Here again, though, normal rules simply don't apply. Primarily because, in this case, you're working with a much bigger battery. One nearly 4 times more powerful than that, say, in a Nissan Leaf. And as a result, a Model S with an 85 kWh battery is rated as being able to complete 310 miles on the official NEDC test cycle. Even in real-world driving, you could expect a 250-mile range, which is astonishing for a pure electric car. If you're of the opinion that futuristic technology should come in futuristic packaging, then you might find the styling of this Model S to be surprisingly conventional. It's certainly the kind of look that a buyer in the luxury segment would be used to, but only because Tesla has wisely chosen to follow customer expectations in making it so. It's handsome though, the exterior shaping the work of ex-Mazda designer Franz von Holzhausen, who previously worked on the new Beetle and the Pontiac Salsa sports car. Drop inside and the surprises keep on coming throughout a beautifully trimmed interior in which the designers have clearly felt free to be a little more futuristic. Look around the dash and you'll spot only a couple of buttons, one for the glove box and the other for the hazard flashers. Otherwise, just about everything is controlled by this huge 17-inch colour touchscreen that dominates the fascia. It's just as well then that the interface it offers is brilliant, dealing effectively with everything from the air conditioning controls to stereo functions and the various settings for things like the car's suspension and the regenerative braking modes. Primarily though, you'll probably mostly be leaving this middle screen in its navigation display mode, in which form it really is clever. Thanks to a 3G Google Maps connection, it can show you traffic build-up points and Google Earth images. Plus, of course, it's the point from which you'll be planning your journeys, with displays predicting the percentage of battery charge that will remain at your required destination and the amount you'll be left with upon returning home. As for rear seat accommodation, well, the standard of head and legroom on offer are unremarkable for a car in this class. But what is impressive is this car's ability to comfortably look after 3 fully sized adults in a way that no other rival in this class can. On to the cost of ownership. Now here, as you'd expect, this Model S enjoys a devastating advantage over its rivals. Time to look at the facts. Let's say you were considering what will probably be the most popular Model S variant, the 85D version with its dual motor all-wheel drive system. Now, for the same sort of size, specification, space, traction and performance in a conventional luxury saloon, you'd have to look at something like a petrol-powered Audi S8, a car that up front would cost you almost exactly the same sort of money. From that point on, though, the running costs will be widely divergent. You'd get a range of not much more than around 300 miles from the Audi if you were driving it reasonably hard, which is also what you'd get from a fully charged Model S85. But whereas that range will require a £100 fill-up in the S8, you'll spend no more than around £5 or so to fully charge this Tesla from empty. Now, to save you doing the maths, I'll tell you that over 20,000 miles, that'll mean total fueling costs that in the Audi would set you back over £6,000 more. On top of that, you'll need to remember that a Model S attracts very little benefit in kind company car tax. Something like an S8 could set a typical 40% taxpayer back around £11,000 in BIK bills alone. Ultimately, this Tesla has changed so much that it's hard not to feel a bit sorry for its competitors. A conventional internal combustion engine rival suddenly has a real whiff of Betamax about it, powered by technology that's yesterday's news. Of course, that's not to suggest this car to be perfect. No one gets everything right first time. This American brand's handling and chassis tuning development still has a way to go, and less significantly, there are improvements that could be made in the cabin quality too. On top of that, the EV approach obviously isn't going to work for everyone. Even with the kind of expanded driving range you get here, those covering large daily mileages aren't going to be suited to a Model S. Most buyers in the luxury segment will be though, and those prepared to buy into the new technology and make a few of the lifestyle changes it requires will find relatively little else to fault. These are people who realise that they won't find inspiration in the places they've already been. They understand that to move forward, you have to do something different. You have to go somewhere new. That's what Tesla has done, while the rest of the motor industry watches and hedges its bets. In doing so, they've created a car that does nothing less than rewrite the rule book.